My name is Captain Anonymous. I'm here to share my personal views on America's foreign and military policy. I wish I didn't have to hide my face, but military code prohibits us from speaking our mind directly to media outlets without going through our public affairs department first. I do not represent military opinion as a whole. However, I feel it's my patriotic duty to try and open people's minds without being censored by a government agency. I'm currently in the Middle East fighting the war on terror. This is my third deployment to the AOR in the past 2 years. Some of my more experienced friends have deployed as much as 8 to 12 times. On average, an American troop has gone about 6 months per year. This pace hasn't stopped since 2001. Our constant deployments, along with budget cuts, definitely has decreased the existing size of our military. A serviceman or woman is now expected to deploy more, work 2 to 3 times as hard while at home, and maintain our military effectiveness using less resources. It is becoming work more with less military, and I feel that it is exhausting U.S. troops. I have had numerous friends voluntarily separate, been forced to separate from rifts, and can't wait to separate, even with no job possibilities as a civilian. And speaking of losses, over 6,000 American citizens have been killed fighting the war on terror. Over 50,000 more have been wounded, and the constant deployments away from our families have caused high divorce rates and has led to an ever-growing number of military suicides. But I don't want to complain. I believe in America because it's supposed to represent freedom, but I'm going to use my freedom of speech right now. We don't need to be here anymore. It's draining our economy of money and killing American soldiers needlessly. If we were to stop this war right now, we would have no less risk of being attacked by terrorists. In fact, we would be attacked much less. The military was made to provide for the common defense, not nation building. Congress never voted to declare this campaign to be a war in the first place, as they did during World War I and II. So we are really out here unconstitutionally for a campaign on terror. The drawdown of Iraq is a front and political move by Obama. Yes, we are turning the country over to the Iraqis, but we are still deploying exactly the same as before, just to different locations in the Middle East. Now there are talks about us going to war with Iran because of the possibility of them creating a nuclear weapon. Really? A nation that can't even refine its own oil into gasoline is going to somehow create a nuke and attack us? They don't even have a bomber, an ICBM, or uranium. Even if they were to deploy a nuke on us, we have the defenses in place to prevent that strike. And even if they miraculously did set off a nuke in the U.S., then we would easily blow up their entire country with the push of a button. There is no incentive for anyone to go to nuclear war with the U.S. We can blow up the earth 7 times over if we wanted. I feel like the media and politicians, probably powerful corporations because they paid both of those guys off, try to constantly keep America in a state of fear over terrorism. More than likely for profiteering reasons. But realize this, terrorism is a tactic. You can't declare war against a tactic. You have to declare war on an entity or group of people that we can fight. Terrorism can come from anywhere. It can come from an American just as easily as it can come from an Islamic extremist. There is no way to ever end terrorist attacks. It's part of human nature because extremists will always exist. We should have gone to war with just the Taliban or Al-Qaeda, not terrorism. That's like going to war with drugs. Oh, by the way, I was in that war also. Yeah, it's still going on. But has that war stopped drug use? No. And that war has been around since the early 1970s. Are we going to do the same thing with terrorism? Do people realize they are less likely to die from a terrorist attack than from a lightning strike? Maybe we should have gone to war with lightning instead. We'd probably be more successful. The only reason Americans are dying from terrorism is because we are over here where they can get to us. Listen, I remember 9/11, and I believe going to war with Al-Qaeda was right. But there is a bigger threat to America now than terrorism ever could be. Our new enemy, or should I say our rapidly strengthening enemy, is national debt. The debt has never in history been this severe. There is one simple truth. The greatest civilizations in history have rarely lost their strength because of war. The Romans, the Mongols, the French, the Germans. War didn't stop these empires, their economies did. Without money, a nation has no power, unless that nation's money means something to the rest of the world. Terrorism is a paper cut compared to what our nation will undergo if we do not fix our monetary policy. Why don't we review Osama bin Laden's strategy to attack us in the first place? His strategic plan, after drawing us into war, was not to confront our military might. He planned to hide his forces. From there, insurgent cells would sporadically attack us and live much longer. He wanted us to have a long, drawn-out war that would eventually bankrupt us. That would be the only way he could ever defeat America, by crippling our economy. He used this same strategy against the Soviet Union during the Cold War, and it worked. Has he succeeded with America? I think even after his death, he is on the verge of it. We have more than 15 trillion in national debt, more than any other country in the world. Our annual deficit has exceeded our GDP for the first time in history, yet we are still fighting a $1 trillion per year war. I took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The biggest threat to America now is domestic, not foreign. A monetary policy to continue war without regard to the debt it creates is the greatest and most serious enemy America has ever faced. If we were to end the campaign on terror, our national deficit would shrink from 1.3 trillion to only 300 billion overnight. We have to make balancing the budget our greatest defensive priority. We cannot continue to print money to pay for our debt. This leads to massive inflation. Learn the lessons from the past. Germans printed their currency so fast to repay for national debt after World War I that hyperinflation hit them within a couple of years. Germans would literally burn stacks of their German marks in their fireplaces to keep themselves warm because a piece of wood costed more than their paper money was worth. Can you imagine burning all your dollars of life savings just to keep yourself warm this winter? Their hyperinflation and economic collapse eventually led to the rise of Hitler. Our US dollar is not immune to such a fate. Our money is fiat, Latin for let it be so. Currency declared to be money only by government decree, not intrinsic value. The dollar you have in your wallet right now is fiat currency, and it only has been around since 1971, after Richard Nixon took us off the Bretton Woods gold standard system. Our currency is not backed by anything other than a government IOU. That is what your dollar says on it, that it is a note of legal tender, or IOU of legal money. It only represents money if people think it is money. If we or other countries lose faith in the US dollar, our economy would collapse. That is why we need to return to a commodity-based currency. Gold has always returned to power once nations' paper money fails. Why? Because gold is a limited resource that has stood the test of time of being money. Gold had great purchasing power 2,000 years ago, and 1 ounce of it today is worth about $1,700. Governments cannot produce more gold, and that is why it retains its intrinsic value. Milk, bread, gas, all will cost more and more dollars in the future because we cannot control government's ability to print more money, which causes inflation. That's why governments hate gold, because they cannot abuse it like they do the US dollar. The USA was on a gold standard before, meaning I could go to a bank, turn in my dollar, and redeem actual gold. That is why after World War II, the world used the US dollar as the world reserve currency, because it was as good as gold. We departed from that in 1971 when we started this fiat currency experiment. The average age of a civilization's ability to maintain a fiat currency before their economy collapses is 40 years. That fact has been proven countless times throughout history. Fiat currency is destined to fail. Look at what it has done to our nation so far. Our debt was only $400 billion in 1971, and now we have over 15 trillion. The price of gas in 1971 was only 36 cents per gallon. If we do not return to sound money, backed by gold or silver or something with intrinsic value, then we are on the fast track to hyperinflation, just like the Germans after World War I. We have to stop our central government from continuing to print more money to pay for our never-ending debt. The military has taught me never to complain about a problem unless you have a way to fix it. I believe there is a way to fix this madness, and the answer starts first with the right leader. And I'm here to tell you that there is such a person, and he is running for president right now. He has been in office promoting this philosophy for more years than I have been alive. He is a man of integrity who has not been corrupted by lobbyists or special interest corporations. He wants to end the war on terror and bring long-awaited peace to our nation. He believes in sound money and holding accountable organizations like the Federal Reserve. He has received more individual campaign contributions from military members like myself than all other GOP candidates combined. Why? Because not only is he the only one of them to have served in the military, but he, like us, sees the truth, that this war is a waste of our resources and lives, and he is the only person with the knowledge, courage, and principle to stand for what is right and end this war. He believes in a strong national defense, but not preemptive wars or nation building. He has stood by the Constitution time and time again and has taken his oath of office more seriously than any other politician in Washington. He is the champion of individual liberty, wants to decrease the size of central government and its countless organizations, and bring that power back to the citizen and the states. His name is Ron Paul, and I believe he will ring in a new era of an America with the same values and principles that were created by our founding fathers. America's old ways have failed. We cannot have more of the same, a welfare state run by an ever-increasing authoritarian government. Ron Paul brings what seems like a new philosophy, but it is really a philosophy of what America used to be. He will slash $1 trillion in spending his first year in office by ending the war on terror, along with wasteful government spending, and has promised to balance the budget within 3 years. A vote for Ron Paul is a vote for freedom, liberty, and a strong United States. I plead with you as an American soldier to take a serious look at Ron Paul. Do not be an apathetic citizen. You can change the course of our nation's history, and it's not by occupying Wall Street or sitting on your ass watching more YouTube videos. It's by occupying a voting booth in the coming primaries and voting for a leader who represents what America should stand for: peace, prosperity, and above all, liberty and freedom. Fighting the war on terror. This is my third deployment to the AOR in the past 2 years. Some of my more experienced friends have deployed as much as 8 to 12 times. On average, an American troop has gone about 6 months per year. This pace hasn't stopped since 2001. Our constant deployments, along with budget cuts, definitely has decreased the existing size of our military. A serviceman or woman is now expected to deploy more, work 2 to 3 times as hard while at home, and maintain our military effectiveness using our mind directly to media outlets without going through our public affairs department first. I do not represent military opinion as a whole. However, I feel it's my patriotic duty to try and open people's minds without being censored by a government agency. I'm currently in the Middle East with less resources. It is becoming work more with less military, and I feel that it is exhausting U.S. troops. I have had numerous friends voluntarily separate, been forced to separate from rifts, and we can't wait to separate, even with no job possibilities. Hello, my name is Captain Anonymous. I'm here to share my personal views on America's foreign and military policy. I wish I didn't have to hide my face, but military code prohibits us from speaking